Hello, this is a new episode of Goodfight Games video podcast. This is episode 6. Just want to talk about a few things today. One of them being is accessible remote controls for video game systems, and a few of the ones that I have found at a relatively inexpensive price, but also user-friendly. And also, I just want to talk a little bit about the format going forward of the Goodfight Games podcast. I'll probably do a few more audio only, with exceptions to big hot topics for videos. Something I'm tossing around is the idea of doing like a video game / book comparison. A couple of the books I have in mind and a couple of the video games I have in mind are The Last of Us and also Detroit Become Human. And also as other hot video game issues come up, we can talk about those. But anyway, so let's get on with our accessible remote controllers and how they work. The first one I want to show you is from just something I found off Etsy. It's a one-handed Switch, Nintendo Switch controller. So here's a Joy-Con, and then there is the adapter, and then the other Joy-Con fits in on that side where you can use it one-handed, and that works for me because my left hand isn't functioning fully. This was on Etsy, and it was like $7. It's all 3D printed, so it's inexpensive and a good idea. But it's shaped like a V kind of, to where you can hold both Joy-Cons on this little unit, and it snaps in there nicely so they don't fall out. But that's my solution, at least for now, until for my Switch, Nintendo Switch. I would like something better for the Pro controller, which is this remote. This is the Nintendo Switch Pro. I wish there would be a solution for this, but I haven't been able to find one yet. Kind of like my Evil controller for my PS4. I'll show you in a few minutes and how that works. But I wish there was something very similar to that for the Switch Pro controller. So this is the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. The next item I want to show you is the Evil controller for the PS4. So this is your standard PS4 DualShock 4. It has, the L1, the shoulder button L2, and then this dialogue stick is L3. It clicks, as well as the touchpad, and then your four face buttons, and also the same on this side, your L1, L2, and L3 with your dialogue stick or analog stick. But since I don't have use of my left hand currently, I either use a DualShock 4 with my mouth, kind of like this, where I use this stick and I stretch out my other hand and kind of dual hand it, one-handed like this, and it works, but it's always not the best for fast-paced games. So I got tired of getting slobber all over my DualShock 4 controller, so I reached out to a company called Evil Controllers, and they came up with an awesome solution. So if you recall, a second ago I showed you how there was the L1 and L2 buttons on the shoulder of the DualShock 4 controller. Well, again, since I can only play one-handed, they have this solution for players like myself. So they still have the L1 and L2, but there's nothing in them. They've been actually relocated to this side of the remote. So there's L1 and L2, and then L3 has been relocated to that little jobber. So it's pretty nice. And the D-pad is functioning, but you also notice there's not a second analog stick, which generally controls motion of the protagonist in the game. So what they've done for players like me is they've 3D printed a little housing and relocated the analog stick. Sorry, I'm getting tied up here. They've relocated it to this little device. And so attached is like a 10-foot cable to the DualShock controller. So the wire comes out of the controller like that on the bottom side where the L2 or L whatever it is, the analog stick it used to be. And so they've removed it, so there's nothing in that housing now. But they've relocated it to this little box. And so this controls movement of my character. It doesn't click because they've put that function on top of the controller where I hold on to it. And so, but anyway, with this little device, I use my foot to move my character while playing video games. So it's pretty neat, pretty functional. It takes some getting used to, but that's what I have to do for now if I want to play video games or use my mouth. So I'm hoping that someday Evil will make a similar solution for the Nintendo Switch with the Pro controller. So I might send them an email to see if they can make one of those like this, but for the Switch. So this is Evil controllers. Now this thing was kind of expensive, but when you're disabled and you still want to do quote-unquote normal things, sometimes you have to pay a premium. Now the good news is for that, I got a prescription from Madonna for this controller, so that was good. I was able to use a prescription to get this remote. So thank you, Madonna, for that. And then the last accessible controller I want to show you is from Microsoft. Again, you're thinking, why does this guy have a Switch, a PlayStation, and an Xbox? Well, that's simple. I don't go out very often. I don't do a whole lot outside the house. Maybe go to a movie once or twice a month, if that. Maybe a few times a year. But in addition to that, I also am a professional video game critic. So I have these devices so I can write reviews on video games and help keep people informed about what's good to play and what's not good, and also if it's something children should play or not, or avoid. So that's why I have a PlayStation, an Xbox One, and a Nintendo Switch, because I do that. But the last solution I want to show you is for my Xbox One. This thing is unlike the other remotes. This is a Microsoft XAC, or Adaptive Xbox One Controller. And what's interesting about this is on the top side, I don't know if you can see that, on the top side there are 18 3.5 millimeter plugs where you can plug different devices in to take place of certain button functions. And so it's a little bit bigger than the other two things I showed you from the Nintendo and from Evil controllers, but this one actually may be a little bit better for the vast majority of the people. The downside of this is the cost of the input devices. Normally, what I'm about to show you, these things are like 60, 70 bucks a piece. And this controller, like I showed you, has 18 3.5 millimeter plugs to plug these devices into, so you can use a normal, or quote unquote normal controller. So this is your Xbox One remote, very similar to the PlayStation 4 and Pro Nintendo controller. But what I want to show you is this. So this one has been modified because of my left-handed disability. And these things I'm about to show you have come from an organization called Warfighter Engaged. I've shared things from these guys a couple times on my Facebook profile, but what they do is they help wounded warriors come back from the battlefield and use video games as therapy to help them get back to normal functioning as much as they can if they lose a limb or suffer PTSD. But in my case, they've also helped me. I'm not a wounded warrior, I'm not a veteran, but I love my country and I love video games, and this is a great company to support. They are a 501(c) not-for-profit business, so if you're able, help them out to help people like myself, but also wounded veterans who just need to return to normal life and function like a normal human being, like myself. But anyway, so this is your standard Xbox One controller. Very similar, has the two triggers, has the 4 face buttons, but also has the triggers on the back. Now you'll notice mine's a little bit different on the back. So this is the 3.5 millimeter attachment I was showing you, and since I can't use my left hand, I can no longer use this analog stick on my remote control. So what this is called a snap stick, and it snaps on the back of my Xbox One controller and takes that function, that left analog stick, so I can still move my characters while playing video games. And there's a wire that goes into a 3.5 millimeter plug, and then that plug plugs into the Xbox One adaptive controller. And a couple other devices that I got from them is this. It's just a single button and a 3D printed housing. But again, it's for the left side of the controller because I can't use my left hand. So that's a single. And then this is a dual, again for the left hand side of the controller. And then this device takes place of the D-pad. And all of these again use that 3.5 millimeter port on the back of that Xbox One adaptive controller, or the XAC. Now I give a special attention to Warfighter Engaged because they actually donated the single and dual buttons to me. Again, they're not for profit, but even though I'm not a soldier, they don't want to be a jerk to people like me who have a limited budget and still want to play games and want to return to normal functioning life as much as we can. So Ken from Warfighter Engaged donated me 2 buttons. So again, they're like 65 bucks a piece. So over $100 he donated to me for those devices, so I can play my Xbox again. So I just want to give a thank you to Ken at Warfighter Engaged, and also give special attention to them. Again, if you know of anyone that needs help with their XAC controller, contact Ken at Warfighter Engaged, and I'm sure he'd be willing to help you out. Now I do need a few more. I do need a few more switches for my XAC to make it as functional as I would like it. So if you want to help me out with that, I'd appreciate it. But if not, I understand too. It's a luxury item. But anyway, those are my adaptive controlling devices that I have so far. Sorry, my phone is ringing. I do have one more device coming in. It's called a 3D rudder. It's for my PlayStation VR headset. And whenever that comes in, I'll make a video of that too, and maybe have some gameplay of it, so you can see what the device actually does. But, so again, this has been Goodfight Games video broadcast, podcast, videocast, whatever you want to call it. But again, the format will change a little bit. I'm going to do fewer video podcasts and more audio podcasts. Oh, something I did want to show you real fast is my logo. Let me find it real fast so I can show it to you. So I know my podcast is in its infancy stages, but something I would like to do is maybe have some merch. So I think I'll put my logo on like maybe a few t-shirts and hats, and see if anyone wants to maybe purchase some of those. Again, very infancy. I don't have a big fan base yet, and that's okay. But I do want to continue to do this and to inform people of people with disabilities like myself, our needs, how things are going, but also provide a positive light for people with disabilities. You know, again, I'm a pastor. If you don't know that or do know that, I am a pastor. So this is also a Christian podcast. But this is my new logo, or my only logo. Goodfight Games, fight the good fight. So I have that one, and this one with a laurel wreath around it. But those are my logos, and I'll try and have some merchandise with that logo on them, some shirts, hats, some stickers, that sort of thing, if anyone's interested in that sort of thing. And as this podcast, videocast continues to grow, hopefully I can start going to a few conventions and that sort of thing, but that's all in the future, and depending on how well I continue to recover from having my stroke, and as hopefully I continue to recover my left hand function, if that's in God's plan or His will for me. So that's something I also want to talk about, is my hand. Again, my left hand was affected by my stroke. I can move it a little bit. You can see that. But after one or two times where I open and close, then it's pretty much done. Like it's tired out or something. So I continue to go to therapy and improve that way, but it's a long, hard road. Last thing I want to talk about is I have submitted a book proposal to Concordia Publishing House out of St. Louis, where I talk about my stroke, about my recovery, but then I also have it in connection with the Fellowship of the Saints, and also I want to tie it in with Luther's Small Catechism, as well as Luther's Small Call Articles, where Luther writes about how we share the gospel, and one of those is the mutual consolation of the brethren, or brothers. And we share that gospel by and through receiving the Lord's Supper, as well as having that banquet with all the saints in heaven and on earth. So during my time at Madonna, I was lonely, obviously. I was there for almost 3 months. But the one thing that continued to help me get through those lonely times were the times that my circuit visitor or my district president came to see me and bring me the Lord's Supper. So even though I was there, my wife was with me most of that time, and I'm thankful for that. My kids came to see me, as well as people from my church, and I'm very thankful for that. So those times where the gospel was shared with me through the Lord's Supper, but also through that mutual consolation, that's what got me through those really dark times. And that's what my book proposal is about, is those hard times that we face when we're lonely or depressed or have anxiety, but also how we can receive comfort in the Lord's meal, but also from friendships. So hopefully I'll hear something back from CPH soon regarding that. Right now I have about 1,000 words written. It'll be about a 9-chapter book, 10-chapter book. But that's all I really have today for the video cast. Next time I am going to talk about a book and a very popular game, The Last of Us, and how it talks about, not the game, but the book talks about The World Without Us is the name of the book, and how nature reclaims areas where people have suddenly left or deserted certain areas, and how quickly nature reclaims that place. But also this book talks about that, and in a video game like The Last of Us, we see how quickly nature has reclaimed major metropolitan areas in the game like Last of Us. Oh, one more thing I do want to talk about is this game, Judgment. If you are a Yakuza video game fan, or if you like detective type games or action adventure games, this is a game you have to pick up. It's not a Yakuza game per se, but it's made by the same company. If I can find it, the Ryuga Gotoku company that made all the Yakuza games. So this is set in the Yakuza universe, but you don't see any of the familiar faces you might know from the Yakuza games. But basically you are a detective, a former lawyer turned detective, after a person you were defending in court turned out to be a murderer. And so this game revolves around murders, as you are a detective trying to solve them. So if you like good adventure games, try Judgment out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. This is one of the games I'm currently reviewing for Geeks Under Grace, and I should have a review finished for it sometime the middle of next week or end of this week. So look for that review. I'll post it on Facebook so you can read all my thoughts about it. Basically it's an awesome game. Pick it up. You'll like it, I promise. So Judgment for PS4. Pick it up. It is a PS4 exclusive, so if you just have an Xbox or Nintendo Switch, I'm sorry. Get a PlayStation. So anyway, Judgment. Check it out. And again, like I said, whenever I come across any more adaptive controllers, I will make sure that if I can afford it, to get one and show you guys what it's like. And again, if you want to help me get any more of those switches from Operation or Warfighter Engage, let me know. I'd appreciate it, so I can make my controller more complete. I appreciate that. But thank you for tuning in, and fight the good fight. And I'll see you next time on Good Fight Games podcast. Have a good day. God bless. Bye-bye.